You know, when we're trading, we're all aiming for the wins, right? But what about the systems that are built to protect us when a trade goes completely, totally wrong? Understanding these safety nets is absolutely crucial. So let's dive into what a stop-out level is.
I mean, it's the question that's in the back of every trader's mind. You've put on a trade, you feel good about it, but then the market just turns against you, and it keeps going. What happens when you hit that point of no return? Yeah, it can feel exactly like this, just a total meltdown where you're watching your hard-earned capital just vanish. But here's the thing, behind the scenes, there's an automated system that's designed to step in. And that system is what's called a stop-out. Now don't think of this as a penalty. Think of it as the ultimate safety net. It's the emergency brake that your broker is forced to pull to protect both you and them. So what is a stop-out level really? Well, it's a specific threshold, a percentage set by your broker, and it's all tied to your margin level, which is probably the best way to think about the overall health of your account. If your account's health drops to this critical percentage, that's when the broker's automated system kicks into gear. This visual explains it perfectly. Think of your margin level like a fuel gauge in a car. When you're way up in the green, you're good. Then you get a margin call. That's kind of like the low fuel warning light starting to blink. But the stop-out level, that is the red line. It's the absolute floor. If your account's fuel hits this point, the engine is designed to automatically cut out. And here's the crucial reason why this exists. It's all about preventing you from getting a negative balance. Your broker does not want you to end up owing them money. This automated shutdown is their final, last-ditch tool to make sure your losses can't possibly exceed what you have in your account.
All right, so the theory is great, but let's see how this actually works in the real world. We're going to walk through a scenario of a trade that completely hits a wall.
For our example, let's say our broker has their stop-out level set at 20%. Just remember that number, 20%. That is the trigger point for everything we're about to see. Okay, so let's set the scene. Our trader starts with $1,000. The trade has already gone against them pretty badly, enough to trigger that first margin call warning. At this moment, they have an $800 unrealized or floating loss. This means their account's real-time value, their equity, is down to just $200. The alarm bells are definitely ringing, but they don't add funds or close the trade. And then the situation gets worse. The market keeps moving against them. That floating loss deepens, sinking all the way down to a painful $960. With every single tick, the pressure is just mounting. Things are now critical. Let's do the simple math here. Your equity is just your account balance minus your floating losses. So you take that $1,000 balance, you subtract the $960 loss, and you are left with a tiny sliver of equity, just $40. And now for the calculation that seals the deal. The margin level is your equity divided by your used margin. So that's your $40 in equity divided by the $200 of margin holding the position open. And the result? 20%. Bang. You've just hit the stop-out level. And this visual just shows the collapse perfectly. On the left, you see the account at the 100% margin call. It's in trouble, yeah, but it's still alive. On the right, at 20%, it's game over for this position. The broker's system steps in and just liquidates, automatically closing the trade.
So the trade has been force closed. What happens next? I mean, what does the account actually look like once the dust is settled?
This table tells the whole story. If you look at that final column, after liquidation, you'll see what happened. First, that floating loss of $960 is now realized. It's not pretend anymore. It has officially been deducted from the account. This brings the account balance down to just $40. And notice the used margin is now zero. That's because the position is closed, which means all of your remaining capital, that final $40, is now free margin. The system did its job. The loss was capped.
Now that's a great question. The scenario we just walked through only had one trade. But what happens if you have a bunch of different positions open at the same time when you hit that stop-out level?
Well, the process is actually pretty methodical. Your broker doesn't just close things at random. What they'll typically do is start by closing your single largest losing position. Why? Because that frees up the most used margin and has the biggest positive impact on raising your margin level. After that trade is closed, the system recalculates. If your margin level is now above the stop-out, the process stops. If not, it moves right on to the next largest loser, and so on, until your account is back in a safe zone.
So all of this leads us to the most important takeaway of all. We focused a lot on the broker's automated system, but now we really need to talk about the trader's role in this whole thing, your responsibility.
Here's the most critical point.
A stop-out is the last resort. It is the emergency brake. Using a proper stop-loss order, that's you actively managing your risk. That's like using the normal brakes on your car. Relying on a stop-out to save you is like driving your car with the plan of only ever using the emergency brake to stop. It's a massive sign that you've already lost control.
And this really just says it all. You can't blame your broker if you get stopped out. At the end of the day, you are the one behind the wheel. Monitoring your equity, your margin, and your open positions, that's your #1 job as a trader.
So I'll leave you with this question to really think about. We've just explored the final automated safety net that's there to catch you when everything has gone wrong. But what's your first line of defense? What are the proactive steps you're taking to make sure you never even get close to that point in the first place?